to your other question about, my bullishness on New York City has survived a lot of stuff over the years and some pretty bad mayors. And, an incompetent de Blasio, a corrupt and incompetent Mayor Adams, our current mayor. Yet the city's booming. It's thriving. It's incredibly vibrant, entrepreneurial.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to a very special in-person episode of the Julia LaRoche Show, where we are joined today by Whitney Tilson. He is a well-known value investor, a former mayoral candidate here in New York City for the Democratic Party, and a well-known Buffett Munger follower, an editor at Stansberry Research, and someone I've known for a long time, friend for well over a decade at this point. Great to see you as always, Whitney. It's been way too long.
Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you. So we are recording on Wednesday morning, the day after Election Day here in New York City. Normally I would start with markets and the economy, but I kind of feel like we should just start with the mayoral election. Your reaction, especially someone who ran.
Yeah, well, I had mixed feelings last night when all the results came in. I'm a lifelong Democrat, have been trying to drag my party back to the center for most of my career. And generally speaking, as a Democrat, it was a great night. Huge wins, far larger margins than expected in the gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey, Prop 50 passing in California, down ballot races in those states, as well as down in Georgia. Big turnout here in New York, and 5 of the 6 ballot initiatives that I supported, all of them passed in New York. The great night, except for one big thing, Zohran Mamdani, Democratic Socialist, was elected. And I dedicated the last really couple months of my campaign to warning New Yorkers about the dangers of electing a guy I saw as unqualified, inexperienced. Was 33 at the time, just turned 34, with a lot of pretty radical ideas. And I was even more afraid of his radical comrades at the DSA. So it was too little too late. And frankly, Andrew Cuomo didn't even campaign really in the primary, thinking he had it locked up. So to no one's surprise, I've known for months that Mamdani was likely to be elected. So I guess I would say, so mixed feelings overall last night. Disappointed but not surprised by the outcome of the mayoral election. But as a New Yorker, I'm still bullish on New York. I think Mamdani is going to be smart enough to, govern somewhat moderately, not as an extremist. And when I say moderately, I mean a moderate but very liberal mayor, more like de Blasio, who I didn't think was much of a mayor, got universal pre-K done, and otherwise not much, but didn't sink the city. I will say, having run for mayor and spending 7 months all over this city and diving into all the issues and opportunities and all, I'm bullish on New York. I'm much more optimistic about New York than I was when I entered the mayoral race a year ago.
Okay, but what do you think it says that the city, I'm not a city resident any longer, but right, elected effectively a socialist as mayor? What do you think it says? How did we get here?
Well, I think part of it is in the Democratic Party, and keep in mind, 2/3 of registered voters in New York are registered Democrats. So this is a very liberal city, and there's a very strong reaction against Trump and Trumpism, not just here in New York, but across the country. And generally speaking, that's something I share and support. I also think, frankly, Andrew Cuomo came in with so much baggage that, I was hoping to present myself as a fresh outsider alternative, but, couldn't self-fund, didn't have any name recognition. And so, my campaign didn't take off. But so I wouldn't read too much into it. The fact that Mamdani in a very liberal city only won by 8 points, and in blue states, but not nearly as blue as New York City, in New Jersey and Virginia, the gubernatorial candidates won by 13 and 16 points, shows that, I would not read a Mamdani election here into, the entire Democratic Party nationwide has gone super lefty. I think that would be a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as someone who tried to stop him when you were running in the primary, what was it about? I didn't pay attention back then. It was only
right,
once he became the candidate that was like, okay, what was it that he was doing differently that?
Right. To his credit, he was the only candidate in the field who who identified the number one issue, affordability.
Mhm.
New York is just wildly expensive. And for all but, the 1%ers or the top 10%ers, it's just become increasingly unaffordable. So he nailed the big issue and then developed a set of very clear slogans / policy proposals: fast free buses, freeze the rent, free universal childcare, that captivated people. It was very simple, very clear. And one of the things I realized running for office for the first time, if you want to win a political race, promise the maximum number of people, the maximum amount of free stuff, and tell them they don't have to pay for it.
The economics of that actually don't work.
I was on the debate stage. I ran ads. I tried to point this out. There's no way that he will be able to raise taxes. That requires going through Albany. Therefore, he won't be able to pay for the universal child care that he's promising to everybody, which I think would be a great thing, but it's not affordable. I don't think we can afford free buses for the whole city, et cetera. But in the same way that nobody really believed Trump was going to build a wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. But he captured the issue among Republicans, and it was more of a slogan for what he stood for, even if practically speaking, I don't think any but the most hardcore supporters actually believed it, but it didn't matter to them. So I would say Mamdani nailed the key issue, the key policy proposals that grab people. And then lastly, he's a gifted politician. I sat on the stage with him as close as we are right now multiple times. And I never heard a flub. He doesn't even say, He's a brilliant public speaker. He stayed on message. And so he's really, really good as a politician. And that's one of the reasons why I think he's very dangerous, because he's very young and naive and has a lot of bad ideas, but he's a brilliant salesman for them.
Yeah, I think that's what's scary for people.
Right. I called him the Trojan horse for the DSA. They have been grooming him for at least 15 years since he was, in his teens. He was out there knocking on doors. I know people who worked with him back then. When he was a teenager, he was a gifted canvasser, a gifted petitioner, going out and getting people to sign their name to get people on the ballot. I've heard stories where he would get 10 times the number of signatures as the average petitioner, because he's just that charismatic, that smooth a talker, and really connects with people. He's good.
Okay, but you're not worried about the direction of New York City.
Oh, I'm very worried about the Mamdani mayorality, because he's put out. He's been very hostile to Israel, and I'm from New York's Jewish community. I've been a member of Central Synagogue for 25 years, so I'm very concerned about that. His previous rhetoric, in fact, it's on his Twitter feed right now, calls from 5 years ago to defund and dismantle the wicked police, for example. There's been lots of rhetoric about, seizing the government, seizing private property, businesses, that kind of thing. How much of that was youthful foolishness from 5 years ago versus how will he really govern? To his credit, since he won the primary, he's very much tacked to the center. He's pledged to keep Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, who happens to be Jewish, by the way, for someone who's been accused of anti-Semitism. I think that's pretty clever of him to keep a police commissioner who's done a great job bringing down crime. So I'm an optimist by nature, so I'm going to be optimistic and hopeful that Mamdani exceeds my expectations. But to your other question about, my bullishness on New York City has survived a lot of stuff over the years and some pretty bad mayors. And, an incompetent de Blasio, a corrupt and incompetent Mayor Adams, our current mayor. Yet the city's booming. It's thriving. It's incredibly vibrant, entrepreneurial. Every young person wants to be here. Every immigrant wants to be here.
That's what also worries me, though, having lived in New York. And then it took a while post-pandemic to feel like the vibe is finally back. And I think that's really worrisome. Is that going to go away?
It's back. And I don't think it's going away, because the big employers are literally building multi-billion-dollar buildings for their headquarters. JP Morgan, which of the big, was it Deloitte, the big consulting firm, bought an entire building. And these are long-term, multi-decade commitments. So the back to work is back in a big way. And just, go down in any of the neighborhoods in Brooklyn or Soho or whatever. I have 3 daughters, all in their 20s, who live here, and they wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I wouldn't want them anywhere else. This is very much where you want to be if you're early in your career and you want mentorship and connections and networking. It's here like it is nowhere else in the world.
You don't see a risk of it turning into like a San Francisco situation?
Well, San Francisco is sort of an extreme example of what can happen under very lefty leadership or lack thereof. I think that's a risk, but my base case scenario is the next 4 years under Mamdani are going to be de Blasio 2.0. And New York was still pretty great under de Blasio.
Okay. So you also don't buy the argument then, like you saw the memes on X, I'm sure, of like the real estate agents in Miami, the phones blowing up, people moving out. You don't buy that.
I think there are quite a few people in a wait and see mode right now. A lot of people who wanted to move during COVID, and there's definitely has been an outflow that's worrisome given that 1% of New Yorkers pay almost half of the personal income taxes in the city, for example. But I think so. I think there are probably a lot of inquiries, a lot of people on the fence. And I think Mamdani knows that. And I think he can do math well enough to know that if he really does drive out all the rich people and all the big corporations and businesses and creates a hostile environment for everybody who's got money and resources, his tax base dries up and he won't be able to pay for everything that he needs. Keep in mind, under Mayor Bloomberg, taxes doubled. But that's because the economy doubled. He didn't raise the tax rate. He was just pro-business and ran the city well and built on the city's incredible strengths to, the economy doubled over 12 years. And that doubles your tax base. I don't know for sure. I don't say this with conviction, but I know Zohran Mamdani has a high IQ. He is not dumb. I think he's naive and inexperienced, but he's not dumb. And he's proven to be a pretty clever politician. I think if if he keeps Jessica Tisch and, if crime goes up, everybody leaves and his whole agenda is dead. And I think he knows that.
You can't do a recall here, though.
Right. So I think he's going to keep Jessica Tisch. I think crime and safety are going to keep improving under her leadership, as they have since she came in about a year ago. And, he's going to focus on the affordability issues that he campaigned on. And I would like to see New York be more affordable as well. Like some of his ideas are good.
Like what?
I think universal childcare, in the same way de Blasio got universal pre-K done. Universal childcare would be a great thing. I think experimenting with free buses, certainly in low-income neighborhoods of New York, is a reasonable idea. I don't think freeze the rent is a good idea. I think that exacerbates our housing crisis. But I've been actually quite surprised his rhetoric around what was called City of Yes, which was legislation passed by the city council that eased the zoning restrictions. His rhetoric has almost mirrored mine in terms of, if you want to make housing more affordable, it's a supply problem. It's good to have to have high demand. A lot of people want to live in New York. Lots of young people are moving here, right? The problem is we've made it so difficult to build new housing that you've got a supply problem, and that results supply-demand mismatch, and that results in super high prices. So, and rents. He has not only embraced City of Yes, wants to expand it, and then there were 4 ballot initiatives that most people didn't pay attention to last night because everyone was focused on the mayoral race, that all related to easing the approval process, zoning, et cetera, for new construction of affordable housing and all types of housing. All 4 of those passed. And Mamdani supported those. So he may prove, that's an area where I totally agree with him.
But you also at the same time still think he's dangerous.
His ideas And it's hard to differentiate. He is clearly a leader in the Democratic Socialist, the DSA. And if you look on their website, there's some really crazy stuff over there. For example, to open the doors of all of our prisons and just let all prisoners out because incarceration is a tool of capitalism, et cetera, right? He directly has tweeted to defund and dismantle the police. Like, those are super dangerous ideas. I hope the fact that he has said he will keep Jessica Tisch as police commissioner, I think it was a very promising sign for me. The fact that he has embraced easing the zoning restrictions, et cetera. There's so much NIMBYism, on the city council and in certain neighborhoods that has prevented growth. New York is, from running for mayor, New York is enormous. And
it's probably like running a small country.
Oh, yeah. I mean, New York, New York City, its budget would be the fourth largest state in the country. It has double the budget of any other city in the world. It's double Tokyo, and Tokyo has twice the population. It's 4 times London, and London has 10% more population. It's New York is almost, the budget and the city is almost mind-bogglingly large. I knew it was super big. Spending 7 months on the campaign trail, I really got an appreciation for it.
What surprised you as someone, you came from just running money, being a hedge fund manager for 25 years and investing in the value investing world. Decided you want to run.
Right.
What surprised you in the process? Gold keeps setting new all-time highs, but price appreciation isn't the only way to profit from owning gold. Monetary Metals is redefining the future of precious metals investing. Instead of paying to store gold, imagine getting paid to own it. With Monetary Metals, you can earn up to 4% on your gold, paid in physical gold. That's right, your ounces grow each month, not just your paper balance. A yield on gold, paid in gold, means you're stacking more ounces every single month. And you still benefit if gold's prices rise. You're earning more gold every month and enjoying potential price appreciation at the same time. Go to monetary-metals.com/Julia to learn more and see how you can start earning 4% on your gold, paid in gold.
I would say most of the surprises were to the upside.
Okay.
I got into the race because I thought my beloved city was going to hell in a bucket. Mayor Adams under indictment, crime was still much higher than pre-pandemic. So what were the positive surprises? Crime, the murder rate's probably down 30% in the last year. Jessica Tisch came in totally coincidentally, of course, right about the time I declared my candidacy. And she finally brought good leadership and stability to the top of what had been a corrupt and dysfunctional top leadership in the NYPD. So the city has genuinely gotten a lot safer. A month after I got into the race, City Council passed City of Yes, which is unlocking a surge of new construction and all, easing which I think will, in the next year or two, start to ease the affordability crisis. And lastly, I was just wrong on, I didn't fully appreciate New York's strengths. You sort of read the headlines and you see all the bad news. But when I actually got out there, the immigrant communities, particularly around New York, I didn't know there was a little Yemen up by the Bronx Zoo, and the Yemeni immigrants now run 90% of the delis and bodegas, around New York City. And it's an incredible story of a, group of people fleeing a very troubled country, over the last 20 years, could only afford to live in the most, troubled and dilapidated and dangerous corners and neighborhoods in New York. But they came in and, bought burnt out brownstones for $200,000 that are today worth $5 million, over the last 20 years, and this is a story that's been repeated by immigrant groups. Every immigrant in the world wants to come to New York City, not anywhere else in New York, in this country. And to some extent, I love Mamdani's story. I don't like his ideas, but, came here at age 7, hustled, got himself into one of the elite specialized schools, went away to college up in Maine at an elite college, came back to New York and, dedicated himself to, public service and all. And I think many of his ideas are naive and all.
He hasn't had like a real job.
Fair enough. But, like I said, I love that immigrant story. And, my ancestors did something similar a century ago. And, my daughters were raised here, or city kids, and all went away, far away to college. And all of them have come back here and chosen to build their lives here. So I hope, I just hope, at age 34, being propelled into the second hardest job in the world after U.S. president is what it's reputed to be. And I don't doubt that, that he grows up very rapidly, discards a lot of stupid and naive ideas that have sunk San Francisco. That right now, that guy, Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, who is sort of a teacher union hack and is sinking that city. I think Mamdani, I hope he's smart enough to look at those cautionary tales and say, you know what, maybe I should keep Jessica Tisch. And, because if crime starts going up, my whole agenda goes out the window, right? It'll be very interesting to see who he appoints as schools chancellor. That is by far the biggest area of spending in New York City. It's 37% of New York City's $115 billion budget. It's about $40 billion. We spend more, and relative to that spending, get less in educational achievement than any major city in the country. It should be an embarrassment that New York spends $40,000 per child per year. Mm-hmm. Mississippi, the poorest state in the country, spends $12,000 per child per year and has much worse, demographics, college completion rate of parents, things like that. Yet Mississippi children are testing a year above grade level of New York City kids,
better outcomes,
right? So that's, I think he's nailed it to keep Jessica Tisch. The second equally important by those two appointments, school chancellor and police commissioner, are by far the most important ones that any mayor of New York makes. Does he appoint someone who's someone the teacher union just puts up, who panders to the union, just hires a lot more teachers where there's no standards, no accountability, and nothing changes, versus does he appoint someone like Mike Bloomberg appointing Joel Klein? And you could see it in the 12 years under Bloomberg. Test scores went up, graduation rates went up every year. Ever since de Blasio and then Adams came in, it's all gone back down.
Because anti-charter schools, I take it. Maybe for de Blasio?
Someone
was anti-charter schools.
De Blasio for sure. And he tried to really make life miserable for us. We raised a few $1 million and ran ads of our parents, almost all low-income minority parents, looking into the camera saying, Mayor de Blasio, why are you trying to take a good school away from my child? And he backed off. And he sort of became neutral. He didn't help us, but didn't hurt us. After that, Adams has been reasonable, but it's nothing like the good old days under Bloomberg and Klein, where they were really focused on expanding high quality schools. Under, most people don't know, everyone's heard of sort of Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, Brooklyn Tech, the handful of specialized schools. Under Bloomberg, it grew from 4 to 8, not counting Juilliard, which is an art school. And Mamdani himself went to Bronx Science and benefited from one of those schools. So I'm, again, hopeful. This is an area he has not articulated super strong positions around the school system. The most worrisome thing he said is he wants to get rid of mayoral control, which is something that we fought for and got under Bloomberg. And that's critical, to have the mayor accountable. Even if I don't like the mayor, I want the mayor to have control over the school system, because the alternative was these community boards and all of that, where there's basically no accountability, and it was disastrous.
Got it. The accountability bit. Okay. Bill Ackman, longtime friend of yours.
Yes.
Were you guys roommates too at Harvard?
We weren't roommates, but we were buddies from early days of college for almost 40 years now.
Yeah. A long time. Obviously, you follow him on X. He's been quite vocal.
Yes, but he's famous for his long tweets.
Yes, he won the most verbose in high school. Was his superlative or something like that? So that kind of fits. And Bill's been on the show. I know Bill as well, but you guys are friends. He put out a tweet congratulating Mamdani.
Mhm.
Some people are saying it's like more like an olive branch. That it seems like maybe
Congratulating him
should
and
work.
saying, I'm happy to be helpful,
Okay.
and because I care about New York City.
Do you think Mamdani would accept that?
My guess is that Mamdani simply won't engage at all. Is my guess. I mean, they threw a lot of barbs at each other. It wasn't just Bill attacking Mamdani and putting millions of dollars into a super PAC against Mamdani. But Mamdani used Bill as, the billionaire donors who own the mayor, who own Cuomo, who own Adams, and this is what we're fighting against.
There's that selfie of him with, not a selfie of him with Alex Soros, the picture that was going around today.
With Mamdani.
Yeah, Mamdani and Alex Soros. I think that's right, Matt. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see
that.
It is. Mamdani, since he won the primary, has been very cleverly going out and meeting with the business community. And Kathy Wild, head of the New York City partnership, invited him. He's met with the real estate titans. And I'm telling you, Mamdani is charming. You meet him, you will like him. I've been on a mayoral in a debate where I was kicking the crap out of him for a couple hours, and then the cameras go off at all. He comes over, he smiles, shakes my hand. Hey, Whitney, let's go for a bike ride. We both ride our bikes in the city, right? He's good. So I think he is clever enough that he will reach out to the business community and try and appoint some people from the business community. I suspect it won't be Bill.
It won't be Bill.
If he's super, super clever, maybe. But, what's sort of interesting is I was hearing some speculation, I forget on what podcast I was listening to today, that if he were clever, I know, Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher, who were speculating that Mamdani should find some role for Curtis Sliwa, interestingly enough.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was on the stage many times.
Are you going to get a role? I don't know. You seem kind of like nice and diplomatic here in this podcast. I mean, the comment section is going to go nuts, I feel like.
I am not angling for any position in the Mamdani administration. I am enjoying my life of well-deserved obscurity at this point. But I'm still very much active, as I have been for 25 years, as a Democratic Party activist, and am very focused on supporting Democratic House candidates in swing districts, because I think the single most important thing we Democrats can do to stop Trump and Trumpism, which I view as a tremendous threat to our country, our democracy, is flip the House. That's the most realistic. The Senate's probably a stretch, right? So no, I'm not looking for any governmental position. But I did say, a month or two ago, like, I am voting for Andrew Cuomo. I hope he wins. I recognize, though, that Mamdani is likely to win. And if he does, I will cheer for him. I will hope he is successful, that my fears prove to be ill-founded, that he exceeds my expectations. Because I love this city and I want the mayor to be successful. That said, I won't hesitate to criticize him if I think he appoints a complete hack to be education chancellor or schools chancellor. I'll say so. Mm-hmm. But I'm at this point, I'm going to hold my fire, let Mamdani see who he appoints, and hope he's successful, and hope he does smart things like keeping Jessica Tisch on as police commissioner. Hope is a good omen. And then at this point, I'm focused on stopping Trump and Trumpism and helping Democrats flip the House.
I didn't mean for this to be a political episode per se, but
I have lots of stock ideas.
Well, I do want to get into that real quick, actually, because this is a financial podcast, but yes. New York is the financial capital of the world. So I think and I can't have you on here and not ask you about it as someone's brand too. So
I mean, look, the summary is, I think the good news is I think it is very low likelihood that Mayor Mamdani is going to drive out the business sector, the wealthy folks, the financial sector, and that he's somehow going to cripple New York, and that could have investment implications or negative investment implications, something like that. My default scenario that I'd bet a fair amount of money on is that New York's going to continue to thrive, and it's really booming right now.
Okay, let's talk about the economy.
Sure.
Let's talk about the markets,
Sure.
where we usually start. What is your take? What is your assessment on, let's do both. I know they're
Yeah.
separate, but let's start big picture, your view of the economy and also just markets. We've seen markets at all-time highs.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with, I mean, you know this, but your audience may not, that I'm a Buffett monger value guy. I've been to 26 of the last 27 Berkshire meetings.
Documented them going way back to the early 90s.
Absolutely. And so I'm a bottoms up stock picker. And generally speaking, so I'm not some big market prognosticator. That said, once every 10 years, I identify an enormous bubble and tell my readers and position my portfolio in a much more defensive way. So I nailed the internet bubble. I nailed the housing bubble. Very publicly, on 60 Minutes, et cetera. And so, but I'm also cognizant of probably the biggest mistake I've made multiple times in my 25-year investing career is getting too bearish too early. And with the benefit of old age and wisdom and a lot of scars on my back, I've come to realize when you're in a bull market, you got to ride it. And bull markets tend to run a lot longer than I ever expect. And valuations can go up a lot higher than I would ever expect. And if you own the S&P 500 index fund, which is the default, I think, for most people, or if you own a portfolio of good stocks, and you're not speculating in total idiocy, as too many people do, that you should just stay the course, 9 years out of 10. And if you want to be clever, and figure out when enormous bubbles are about to burst, that can help enhance your long-term returns. So my summary of the big picture is yes, stocks are at all-time highs. Yes, most valuation metrics are at or near all-time highs. That said, I do not think we are in bubble territory. This is nothing like the peak of the housing bubble, when an enormous debt bubble built up, that, threw our economy, the world economy, back on its heels, nor is it anything like the internet bubble, which that was early in my investing career, which, today, as a simple example, the tech titan of its day back at the peak of the internet bubble was Cisco. And it was trading at about 180 times earnings. Today's version of that is NVIDIA, trading at, 30 times next year's earnings probably. There's an enormous difference between 180 times earnings and 30 times earnings, right? The tech titans of today, the top 10 stocks that account for 40% of the S&P 500, trade at an average multiple of 30 times. Like, that's high. I think you should have modest expectations for both those that collection of stocks as well as the S&P 500, but that's not bubble territory by any stretch of the imagination. So I've told, I was pretty bullish back in April when the market fell 18% in a matter of a week or two. The stock market has rallied 40% since then. And so, the 40% is 6 to 7 years of normal returns, I would say.
8% a year.
Yeah, long term. So today, I would say if you own the S&P 500, you should expect 5% compounded returns for the next 5 years. And if you own bonds, you can get 4%. So there's no shame in holding a bunch of cash. And I hold a fair amount of cash as well.
But do you think we'll see that? Okay, so do you think the returns that you'll expect going forward will just be a lot, like they'll be like 5% a year, not as much as you've seen like these big years. We've seen some big years.
And we've gotten spoiled. Basically, with the exception of that dramatic 30% decline in 6 weeks back in 2000 during the COVID crash, we've been in a 15, almost 16 and a half year bull market. It's a long bull market we've been in. So, a lot of investors have seen nothing but, a long bull market. And anytime there's been the dip, it's been very sharp and you should just buy it. So I'm finding it's not, I think you should just have modest expectations and don't be tempted to speculate.
You're still just riding the bull market then.
I am.
Okay.
When you're in, if you're in a great stock, you should ride it for a long time, often decades. And if you're just investing in the S&P 500, ride it for, decades, ideally, in your retirement account. And I don't think we're at a batten down the hatches, time to get defensive right now.
Okay.
And by the way, when that happens, like the last time we had a big drawdown was in 08, early 09, it took 18 months. It was not sudden. All the indicators were there. I was shouting from the rooftops, in February of 08 and again in late 08. There was plenty of time to get out.
See, there's nothing that you see that concerns you right now.
Oh, plenty of things. I mean, mainly just valuations are at very high. So
you're not like jumping in. You're just riding what you have.
No, I'm just sort of like, this is not a time to be piling in, buying, but it's not a time to be, it's not one of those once in 10-year times to be aggressively selling and getting defensive.
This episode is brought to you by VanEck's Rare Earth and Strategic Metals ETF, ticker symbol REMX. Rare earths are the hidden backbone of modern technology and defense, powering everything from smartphones and electric vehicles to fighter jets and wind turbines. VanEck recognized this early, launching the Rare Earth and Strategic Metals ETF, ticker symbol REMX, 15 years ago, well before supply chain security became a global priority. Today, China dominates the production and refining capacity of rare earths, creating real challenges for global supply chain security as these materials are essential for technological innovation, clean energy, and national security. That's why countries all around the world are racing to build their own supply chains and reduce reliance on China. As this global shift continues, investment in the rare earth ecosystem is growing rapidly, from mining to advanced manufacturing. Investors can gain access to this powerful trend through REMX. Visit vaneck.com/REMX Julia to learn more. We should also talk about ideas, because I know that you've been writing to your 100,000 plus subscribers, your favorite longs, the stocks that you want to avoid. Okay, what are your ideas right now?
Let me start with some simple ones. Berkshire Hathaway has been one of my favorites for 30 plus years, but I view Berkshire Hathaway today as almost like a substitute or a proxy for just owning the S&P 500. And you'll do better than the S&P 500 if you can buy it at a 10% or greater discount to its intrinsic value. Berkshire stock is actually, after really being doing well the first part of this year, is actually down 10% in a period of time in the last 6 months when the market's up 20%. So Berkshire Hathaway is, as of right after earnings earlier this week, my latest calculation is it's trading 11% discount to its intrinsic value. So I think Berkshire will do a couple points better than the S&P 500. So that's a good, safe stock. And I would say that would be over, let's say, a 5-year time period if you're buying it today. It's moderately undervalued. Among the sort of big cap tech companies, my favorite over the past year has been Google. They just reported great earnings. Stock ripped. It's gone from 17 times earnings to 27 times earnings. So I'm substituting in my new favorite among the big tech companies, which is Amazon. If you want to read more about it, just Google Scott Galloway's recent pitch for it. It's his favorite stock for the next year, and it's mine as well. Our thinking's very aligned. The Amazon stock, interestingly enough, over the last 5 years has not only trailed every other one of the Magnificent Seven, it hasn't even kept up with the S&P 500. And yet the company, the underlying business is booming. So what's happened? Why has the stock trailed? And the answer is it was trading at 60 times earnings, and now it's trading at 30 times earnings. And so the multiple, it was overvalued. The multiple is compressed, but now the business has caught up with the stock. And I think going forward, the stock, if anything, you could see multiple expansion here. Amazon has now more than 1 million robots, double that of every other company in the United States combined. Amazon has double that, more than any other country other than China. And I think robotics is going to result in distribution warehouse efficiencies that allow Amazon to continue to grow its business, but without increasing its headcount. What does that mean? Expanding margins, exploding profits. So Amazon's my favorite among the big cap tech stocks. If you want a speculation, and it's definitely a speculation, my absolute favorite is Joby, the electric aircraft maker. I visited them 2 years ago and with my cousin, who's a Stanford engineer out there, and he confirmed my impression. They have the best collection of battery, aviation, electric motor engineers in the world, and they are producing an incredibly innovative aircraft that's going to get FAA approval probably in the next year or two, but they're going to start flying commercially between Abu Dhabi and Dubai early next year. And the stock's already tripled since I got into it a couple years ago. I still think it's one of the most interesting speculations out there. It has a $15 billion market cap. And I always felt like, look, I'm not sure if the electric air taxi business proves to be a viable business, but someone will buy this company just for their engineers and their technology. Keep in mind, Tesla has a $1.5 trillion market cap. This company has a $15 billion market cap. So let's imagine that they come up with some battery technology or electric motor technology that's 5% better than anything that's out there. Any Tesla or any other of the Tesla's competitors, any of the big automakers, aircraft makers, Boeings, et cetera, would buy Joby in a heartbeat just for that technology. So I think that's sort of your downside protection. But in the meantime, I think the fact that they're going to start commercial service in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, I plan to fly over there to actually fly on one of their first flights to check it out. It's the kind of stock that retail investors could go nuts for, and you could get a quick double, triple on the stock. So that's my favorite speculation. My last long idea I'll share with your audience is the biggest disconnect between fundamentals and stock price and stock multiple I've seen in a long time. Companies called Global Payments. Every time you use your credit card, they're part of the back-end infrastructure, the most profitable part of which is Visa and MasterCard, two of the most profitable businesses in history. Global Payments is part of that back-end infrastructure. They mint money, generate a ton of free cash flow, growing like crazy. They're the number 3 player. They've acquired the number 4 player, WorldPay, which combined will make them the largest player when the deal closes early next year. And in the meantime, the stock's down 60% in the last 4 years, and it trades at 6 times next year's earnings for a really good business that historically is traded at 18 to 20 times earnings. So I think the market's concerned about that they overpaid for the acquisition, integration issues, et cetera. I think those are short-term concerns. Stock's an easy triple in the next year or two. So those are my long ideas. I've got some short ideas stocks to avoid if you're interested.
Maybe stocks to avoid.
Yeah. By the way, I don't suggest I had a long career as a short seller. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, I wish I'd never done it. Being short, the economics of short selling where your gains are capped and your losses are unlimited. It's mentally draining. It's financially difficult. So it's mostly these days, as I write my investing dailies, I more just tell my readers, these are stocks to avoid. I'm not suggesting you go out and short them. But I came out, I give names to basket of stocks. So I had my meme stock bubble basket. That was 25 stocks at the peak of the meme stock bubble that are down an average of 85%. Then I had my dirty dozen. Then I had my terrible 10. And just last week, I came out with my stinky 6. Okay. So my six stocks to avoid in order. Number 1, Palantir. It's the most it's a legitimate company. I don't think it's a fraud or anything. I just think it's the most overvalued big cap stock I've ever seen in my career. North of a $400 billion market cap for a stock that has $4 billion in revenues and change. So it's trading at over 100 times revenues, over 200 times earnings. So I don't care how great the company is. And they just reported, very strong quarter, very strong growth, and the stock was down 8% yesterday. Because when you trade at that kind of valuation, there's just nothing but downside. So related, but not quite as extremely overvalued, is a company called AppLovin. It's a software maker. And this company's got all sorts of short seller reports are identifying all sorts of sleazy practices and so forth. So it's quote, only trading at 60 times earnings, and the numbers look great. But I'm really questioning, whether they're they're doing a lot of sort of, I wouldn't say illegal or unethical, but sort of scammy things, related to internet advertising and so forth. And it's just wildly overvalued. And it's north of a $200 billion market cap. So it's very important to think about, you don't want to be shorting high growth companies that have a $2 billion market cap or something, but 200 billion, 400 billion, you're probably not going to get destroyed to the upside because the market cap's so big. Number 3 is there's all sorts of China frauds out there that are being promoted. These are outright frauds, virtually non-existent companies that are being promoted by Chinese scammers on WhatsApp message boards and so forth. The company, the best example of this is QMMM Holdings. The ticker is QMMM. It's been suspended right now, but this thing was pumped from virtually zero to a $6.8 billion market cap before the SEC suspended trading. And I'm not sure it'll ever trade again, but do not invest in any dicey Chinese company. It is almost certainly a fraud. And certainly if it's being pumped on message boards. Signet Jewelers owns Zales and other jewelry stores, etc. I think lab-grown diamonds, synthetic diamonds, are now virtually indistinguishable from real diamonds.
So many people are doing them. They're like people who are getting they're getting some big rocks.
Yes, and literally even jewelers now
they're lab grown too. I'm like,
well,
see how big they are.
Yes, yeah, that's true because the person probably couldn't afford a real one because the lab grown ones are 1/7 to 1/10 the price. Mm-hmm. And I think in particular, it's now. I mean, it used to be, if your boyfriend or your fiance or something bought you a diamond ring and it was lab grown, that wasn't cool. Well, now it's sort of cool because, now you're not supporting, the mining of blood diamonds in Africa and so forth, and you're saving 90% of the cost. So I think that's going to be a big headwind for Signet. And then Hims and Hers is the ticker is Hims. That is basically selling basically any prescription drug you want. It's probably best known for the weight loss drugs. But I think they're violating all sorts of FDA rules by, anyone who wants a hair loss drug, a weight loss drug that requires a prescription from a doctor. They just hire armies of people on the phone who will willy-nilly, just give you a prescription and ship you drugs. And so I don't think that's sustainable. And it also trades at 60 something times earnings. It's a very promotional company. So I don't think that's likely sustainable either. So those are my stinky 6.
Berkshire recently had earnings.
Yeah.
They reported a massive cash pile. We've talked about the cash pile for years.
$382 billion.
I remember when you and I were doing interviews 5 years ago, it was like $140 billion, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
what do you think's going on there?
Incredible.
What do you think he's doing?
Well, Buffett has done this before. It's just the company has grown so much that the numbers are just a lot larger. But Buffett is very patient. And if he can't find anything highly attractive, he's very disciplined. He just lets the cash pile up, and Berkshire generates massive amounts of cash. And in fact, on top of that, he has been a net seller of Berkshire's stock portfolio. Every quarter, Buffett and then Ted Wexler and Todd Combs, the two investing guys. Greg Abel is taking over on January 1st, less than 2 months from now, as CEO, but he's not the stock picking guy. So it's sort of a triumvirate. There's a CEO and then the two investing guys. So the three investing guys buy and sell stocks every quarter, but they have been net sellers for 12 quarters in a row now, which means that is, in addition to Berkshire's free cash flow, the cash pile just grows. It's now 37% of Berkshire's $1 trillion market cap.
Waiting for an opportunity.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is Buffett going to be speaking at the annual meeting?
He will be there as a board member sitting in the front row, but he will not be on the stage. That's correct. Yeah, he made that clear. So I think a lot of people aren't going to come because it's not going to be. It used to be.
Contrarian move would be to go because maybe you get to see him.
Well, I'm definitely going to go just because it's a tradition for me, and I know so many people there, and also I want to get a read on Greg Abel. I don't know him nearly as well, either personally or he hasn't been really a public figure. Like, it's very easy. Just go on the internet. You can read all of the Buffett partnership letters. I mean, you can study Buffett going back 75 years.
So I wonder if it's going to be Abel writing the letter this year then.
It will be. That's been established.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't been as following as closely as I used to. Okay.
I mean, look, I think certainly my bias is to give Buffett and Munger the benefit of the doubt, given that they've been not just incredible investors, but incredibly good judges of people over the years. They've made very few mistakes. If you think about all the businesses they've acquired and the people they've acquired who are running them, they've had shockingly few scandals and mistakes. So the idea that at the end of Buffett's career, he's going to make some huge mistake and appoint some bum to succeed him, highly unlikely, right? But it'll, I want to get the measure of Greg Abel. And I think there's, in the same way that I got the measure of Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett by sitting there and watching them answer 6 hours worth of questions that they don't know what questions are coming at the annual meeting every year. I want to do the same with Greg Abel. Now, you don't have to go to Omaha to do that. You can just watch the live stream now. It didn't used to be that way.
Yahoo Finance started the live stream.
Yeah. Well, I made my name in the value investing community 25 plus years ago by going to the Berkshire meeting and sitting there till my hand ached.
You had the most
writing notes. And then I would go home on that Saturday night and I would spend all night typing up my notes and, within 24 hours of the meeting, publishing what became effectively, the transcript of the meeting. And so that's, I did it as a sort of a labor of love, but it also helped me make my name in the value investing community. Sure. And I did the same for Charlie Munger's Westco meeting for many, many years. And thank goodness they started to live stream it because it was getting to be such a big job. And so many people were counting on me. And now I don't have that pressure.
I miss Charlie Munger.
I do. Yeah. He, a great loss, a great, great man.
I do think he's like the Ben Franklin of this generation, where people in 100 years will quote Mungerisms.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The two of them, other than my parents and my wife, have had the biggest impact on my life. I initially, went out to learn from them because I had started a little hedge fund and I wanted to learn to become a better investor, and they were going to help me become rich and be successful. But then I've kept going after all these years because they've made probably an even bigger impact on my life outside of investing.
The worldly wisdom. Before I let you go, Whitney, two-part question for you. What's something that's keeping you up at night that worries you? And to counter that, what's something that's making you optimistic?
I'm happy to say that nothing is keeping me up at night right now. I will say that during the 7 months I ran for mayor, I took Ambien every single night for 7 months to knock me out so I could sleep, because it was so stressful running for office. And so I'm not eager to run back into that. I thought about running for Jerry Nadler's congressional seat, which is the Upper East Side and Upper West Side of New York, and partly just because I didn't want to go back into that incredibly stressful period. I decided not to run for that seat. And it's also a safe Democratic seat. And I know some of the people running for that seat who I think will be great candidates. So I didn't think there was any need for me to run for it. Whereas when I ran for mayor, I saw, I didn't know Cuomo was going to run, and I saw a bunch of sort of no-name and career politicians, and I thought my city really needed another sort of Mike Bloomberg outsider business person to come in. So I can't. I mean, the obvious answer is with Mamdani just being elected and how hard I ran, to warn New Yorkers about him and try and stop his election, that now that's going to keep me up at night. But honestly, because he's been the prohibitive favorite to win for months now, I guess it's not keeping me up at night because I expected him to win. He did win. Yeah. And the fact that he's kept Jessica Tisch on, some of the things I talked about earlier about, supporting construction of more housing and et cetera, I'm feeling a little I'm not sure whether optimistic is the right word, or slightly less pessimistic. And so that's not keeping me up at night.
Hopeful.
I will say, look, as a lifelong Democrat, I almost every day, Donald Trump or one of his people like Stephen Miller or whatever, do something that just shocks me, that would have gotten literally almost every day he is doing something that any prior president would have been impeached for, is just flagrant violation of America's rights, and massed ICE agents just rounding people up on our streets and putting the military, using the military in our streets. The level of graft and corruption with all these Trump coins and so forth, and giving out pardons to CZ, the Binance guy, who just, handing out pardons to people who are lining his family's pocket with hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. The degree of corruption. I think of the hypocrisy of, Hunter Biden was just such a low-level little grifter pocketing a few $100,000 in, board fees or something. And the Trump family, according to the reports I've seen, is profiting just in the 9 months or whatever since he took office, profiting to the tune of well into the billions of dollars, right? Like that. It's not, I don't know whether it's keeping me up at night, but it just fills me with outrage and real concern, for our sort of democratic norms and so forth. On the second part of your question was like, what am I optimistic about and all? Look, I'm, just generally speaking, America since COVID, America, I think, has recovered more by any economic measure, et cetera. The fact that inflation spiked around the world, it wasn't just a U.S. phenomenon, that inflation has come down without triggering a painful recession as the Fed took interest rates up and all, economically, while there are real income disparities, and I know the average American is struggling, we're doing a lot better than almost any other major country in the world. The fact that I think Americans are standing up, the No Kings rally just a couple of weeks ago was probably the largest, according to the reports I've seen. 7 million people showed up to march against Trump and Trumpism, the election results from last night, et cetera. So, make me optimistic that we're going to flip the House, maybe even the Senate in a year from now. And that this, I hate to be so partisan, but I view this national nightmare under Trump we will survive this. And hopefully start putting a stop to it within, when we flip the House a year from now.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you still able to be friends with people who are Republican?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, Bill and I are still.
I was going to say, because you and
talk
Bill
all the time.
Are really good friends. And
absolutely.
Yeah. He would have very different views from you.
I think it's very important to disagree without being disagreeable. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely understand why some people, the many reasons why people would choose to support Trump. And I understand why Bill supports him. And he understands why I don't, why I feel the way I do. And that's okay. We're both fighting the good fight. And, we both love our country. And people can respectfully disagree about, what policies or what people are best for. And so I'd like to think, I never, in trying to stop Mamdani, I don't think I ever crossed the line into Islamophobia and racism and so forth. And a lot of people, there were a lot of attacks on him that I called out publicly as, beyond the pale. There was some meme going around on Twitter that had millions of views that showed a plane heading, a 9/11, plane headed toward the Twin Towers, with Mamdani on it, like he was a terrorist. And he's not a terrorist. He's not a jihadist. He's not a communist. He's a democratic socialist who is more sympathetic to the Palestinians than the Israelis. All right. So are a lot of Democrats, right? Like, I don't hate him personally for it. I actually like him personally. He's very charming. And so, I tried to keep my critiques of him very factual. He's young. He's inexperienced. I think he's unqualified. I disagree with his ideas in the following areas, but I agree with some of his ideas over here. And I fought the good fight to stop him. He was good, and Cuomo wasn't. He won. And so now I wish him the best. I hope he's successful. Mm-hmm. And so, I do worry that as a country, we're devolving into very almost like vicious hatred. And, Jeanine Pirro or whatever is calling Democrats Democrats. And that's not healthy. That's not good for our democracy.
Whitney Tilson, it is so wonderful to see you. Great to see you as always. Editor at Stansberry Research, value investor, former mayoral candidate, and a two-time New York City marathon finisher. You just finished the marathon in record time. 10
years apart. It wasn't any record other than my own record.
Under 4 hours.
At age 59, I ran faster than I did at age 49.
Very
I'm pleased to say.
Impressive. Really appreciate you taking the time, Whitney.